Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. And folks, I've got a repeat guest, somebody that we had to bring back in when he was here the first time. We told you that we were going to do it. And he's here because he's about to give his second TED Talk. I'm still looking to do my first. He's about to do number 2. So, folks, check it out. You guys know him. He's a great friend of mine, somebody that has helped me tons. He's been featured on ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox, just to name a few. He is the top-rated podcast host of the Mindset Doctor podcast, right? He's a former chiropractor, actually owns a practice with his wife still, transformation coach, TEDx speaker. Folks, you know him as Dr. Justin Moseley. Doc, how we doing today, baby?
Doing great. Thanks for having me back. Always enjoy the conversations that we have. And yeah, especially at this time, about to drop my second TED Talk, like you said, and just really focusing on changing lives, making a difference. That's what it's all about.
That's what I'm talking about. Well, dude, so your first TED Talk went crazy, right? It broke the internet before the internet was broke.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I got to share my near-death experience, got to share about that and the lessons I learned from it. So yeah, a lot of great feedback from that.
So how do you top it, Justin? Like seriously. So what's TED Talk number 2 about?
Yeah, so TED Talk number 2 is all about overcoming the fear of public speaking. And it really came because after my TED Talk went live on YouTube, and then I was sharing a bunch of content of speaking at different events, I would have people reach out and congratulate me. Like, man, that's awesome. I love seeing you out there speaking. And they would say, I want to do that, but I could never do it. I'm so scared. And I kept hearing that over and over. I just get so nervous when I speak, I could never do that. And it hit me when one guy was like, it just comes so natural for you. And I was like, this didn't come natural for me. Like I was actually terrified to speak. I had a tremendous fear of public speaking that I had to overcome. So I know a lot of people deal with that. So I'm going to give what I did to help eliminate the fear for me so I could speak and change lives because it's worth the work.
Without giving away all the secret sauce, what are some tips you could give the folks today just kind of scratch the surface?
Yeah, I would say, because I want you to go watch the TED Talk so you can get the full scenario here. But I would say one of the best things to do is not make it about you. Because most of the fear comes because we're in our own heads. What are they going to think about what I'm saying? Are they going to judge what I'm wearing, how I look? And we're all thinking about me.
Yes.
But we got to make it about them.
That's
What's
right.
in it for them? Because all the things in our heads, they're not even thinking about at all. They don't care what you're wearing, how you look. They're just thinking, what's in it for me? So when you show up to serve them, and it comes from the quote, Rory Vaden, a friend of ours, fear disappears when the mission to serve is clear. So when you get really clear of how am I going to serve these people, and you just show up to serve, that's where the magic happens. And you can actually transform that fear into fuel and go out there and just help more people.
Tell me that quote again. Fear disappears when?
When the fear disappears, when the mission to serve is clear.
Woo-wee. I'm writing that down, folks. But it's because you can never be reminded too many times. You're right. Rory's full of those, ain't he?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about how the first TED Talk truly because again, your story is you and your wife owned a practice, a very successful practice, but you were not yet fulfilled, right? You were called to speak.
Yeah.
And you and your wife had a talk about it. You communicated, and she pushed you to chase your dreams, right? And that was one of the best things you guys have ever done.
Yep.
So talk to me a little bit about what that first TED Talk did for you.
Yeah, and the push to speak came from my near-death accident, which we talked about on the first show when I was here before. And yeah, I just knew that I wanted to make a bigger impact. And the TED stage was always a bucket list thing. I remember seeing Simon Sinek's TED Talk, Start With Why. And he shared such a simple concept that was transformational for people. And I was like, one day I'd love to do that. And finally, I took it off my one-day list to know I want to make this happen. And made it real and got to be on that stage that he was on. He was on the TEDx stage. You got Brene Brown, Mel Robbins. They all started with their TED Talk. That really made it big. So for me, one, overcoming the fear, I had to take off the bigness of TED. Like, no, this is just me going out there to serve people. So I showed up, I delivered my message, and it was cool. Like the feedback I started getting. And one of the coolest moments, some mom commented on my on the YouTube video, and she said, "My 9-year-old daughter watched your talk, and she said, I want to wake up with a purpose." And it was like, how cool is that? One, that a 9-year-old is going to watch my talk, but then she was influenced that I want to wake up with purpose and meaning for my life.
That's right. That's right. So everybody, I believe, knows what the TED Talk is, but I don't think they know what the TED Talk is. They've heard of it, and they know that that's where the who's who among speakers and whatnot have come through that circuit. They know that that's a source of great knowledge that they go to. Like, do you know the history of TED? Like, can you tell me a little bit about the history of TED? It's not the movie. It's not the teddy bear.
Right, yeah.
It's not Teddy Ruxpin.
Yeah. And it is, like you said, it's like one of those bucket list things. Like, it's like every speaker, if they can get on that stage, because of the potential. Like TED, I think they have over 40 million subscribers to their YouTube channel. So like if you can get on there, there's so much potential of the people that you can reach. Because you're a speaker just like me, we get to go out and influence crowds of all different sizes, whether it's 20 people or 5,000 people. But when you're on YouTube and on a platform that's that big, you have potential to change people all over the world. Yeah,
that's right. One of the things that I've learned too, doing this, and it's kind of like the same thing that we learned playing music, is if your audience is large, and I'm talking like hundreds to thousands of people or larger, you have to be pretty disciplined in your set list or your itinerary on whatever it is you're doing, because you don't have the as much an opportunity to feed off of a crowd like you might on a smaller group where it's more intimate. You can have more one-to-one conversations, or maybe even accept Q&A or whatnot. And that's one of the things that I'm working on as I continue to polish my skill set when it comes to the delivery of those things. So, like you say, it's about them, not about me.
Yeah.
So, and I actually am more comfortable in the smaller groups because I love that interaction. That's when I'm like interviewing people on a podcast versus having a scripted 1 hour thing where I go out and you just deliver what it is. And that's a challenge. That is tough, man.
Yeah. And the bigger the crowd is, they get lost because you can't just sit there and connect with them. So I like to think of, no matter, let's say it's 1,000 people, you're still speaking to the one, and you try to connect with one person, and you make that point and you find somebody else. Let me connect with them and make one person. And I forgot who told me, but he was like, if you're speaking to 1,000 people, you're not speaking to 1,000 people. You're speaking to one person 1,000 times, because that one person is experiencing your message. So as many people as you can try to connect with, the better.
Dude, that was awesome. That was awesome. So your second TED Talk, currently as we sit today, when this episode comes out, your TED Talk will be live. They can go right to it from here. Finish the episode first.
That's right. After the episode, go to YouTube, look it up.
And it'll be on all of Ted's platforms and whatnot. But you're 23 days away from delivering that sucker, getting on that red circle where we sit today, right? So 23 days away. Where are you at in your process? How long does it take you to prepare for something like this?
Yeah, good question, because it's something that doesn't stop. Like, as you know, we're constantly thinking through, like, hey, how can I tell this story better? How can I tweak this? How can I polish it? So for me, I'm kind of at that phase. I've got all the stories. I've got all the points that I want to make, but just tweaking, like, how can I make this more impactful? How can I deliver this in a way that our people are moved by it? And one of the things that I love to do to prepare is recording the audio of it and then just listening to it over and over. It'll help you memorize it. And that's one of the things to overcome the fear. Most people are afraid because they don't know what they're going to say. So they get up on stage trying to think of, okay, what am I going to say next? But the more you can rehearse it and just get the words down, you take that fear out. Like, okay, I'm not going to forget what I'm going to say. It's already in there. And then the more you have it in you, then it just becomes a performance. It's like, now I want to show up and change these people's lives.
That's exactly right. It's you're polishing that sucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So on the TED platform, like a lot of places you go, they'll ask you. There's a confidence monitor, so you can have you can see what slides on there behind you. You can see what slide is coming next. Maybe you've even got some presenter notes to make sure maybe it's fully scripted, and you're just really good at reading it while looking at the audience. On the TED platform, you guys don't have slides or anything, do you, on those things, or do you?
Yes, some do and some don't. It's really up to the speaker. Some people use no slides, but then they'll bring one at the end just to have like a powerful image. But it depends on the speaker too. For anywhere you want to speak, I think slides can definitely help you along the way to keep you on track. So you're not going to have to think about, okay, what's coming next? What's coming next? So using the slides, I've got a few. And the reason, because I thought about not using slides, but then it's like, one, I want to anchor in the powerful points so people can know, okay, I need to pay attention to this. But then also along the way, it keeps me on track of where I need to be, because you have 18 minutes max when it comes to TED.
That's quick.
So yeah, if you go over, you're disqualified. You're not going to get your talk out there. So it's like, nope, you've got to get your entire message in on time. So the slides will help keep you on track that way too.
I haven't pushed it anywhere, but when I was sitting in that traffic late getting here today, I caught myself filming a little clip about the importance of promptness. I was sitting there late. I think I apologized to you in that thing. I'm gonna run it later. But yeah, dude, you got it. Like, they're hiring you for a job. You got to get it done on time, especially if you go speak at an event. There's multiple speakers. Maybe you're just one of many. There's somebody else. They got to turn the stage around, get it set up for the next person, and keep that sucker moving on time. A lot of times these events are all day long. That's another thing too. That working with brand builders, they've helped me out understand a lot. Is I used to be the speaker that just liked to wing it. I like to just show up, read the crowd like a comedian, and make my bit off of whoever's in the audience. Nothing rehearsed, no points to make or anything like that. Just go wing it.
Yeah.
And I was taught that was, not as marketable or bookable because, in this event, it may be a 2-day event, and they want to start in one spot and end with the other, and they position their speakers based on what it is the speaker's talking about, whether it's a set of signature keynotes that they can hire you for, whatever, but they're telling a story all the way through. And it's, if they don't know where you're going to end up, it's how do they know where to put you in the mix,
Right.
How much of your stuff is, do you ever go out and just wing it? Do you ever, is your stuff always something that you've worked, you've dialogued out, you've rehearsed? Like, how does your process go?
Yeah, and it's a mixture now, because I love that, being able to just go out and wing it and read the crowd, connect with people, and just kind of create an experience based off where they want to go. So I do speak at a lot of mastermind groups, and we get to do that a lot, where it's just, okay, what do they need in this moment, and how can I help them? But like you were saying, a lot of, especially when it comes to event organizers, they want to know, okay, well, what's in it for the people? If I'm looking to bring in Nick to speak to our group, what is our group going to get from his message? So you could do amazing at that, winging it and connecting with people. And they're like, man, Nick's amazing. Let's bring him in. But if they're not really clear on, but why? Like, what are our people going to get? What's the payoffs? What's the benefits? So when you get really clear and dial in a message that, hey, if you come have me speak, your people are going to get this, this, and this, and it's going to make your people better. And they're like, oh, well, then that's who I need to bring in.
I want to thank all of our loyal fans that spread across all 50 states and 14 different countries. It's absolutely amazing. Folks, help us keep spreading the word, right? Share your favorite episodes with friends, and make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the Hitstreak on all digital platforms. Thanks again, and we look forward to more.
Your calling was to speak, okay? So you left a place where you owned a practice. It generates revenue, right? You're one of the people that serve that practice, right, on site. And you leave to go speak. So let's talk about the business of keynote speaking, because you had to replace that revenue with something. It's not a hobby.
Right.
You know, and you're not speaking to just drive traffic back to your clinics.
Right. Yeah. And there's so many different ways to monetize speaking. So let's look at it back before I shifted gears to become a speaker. I was already doing that in our practice. I was going out doing lunch and learns, doing dinners with the doctor. Like, I was getting in front of people with a message, and that message generated millions of dollars over the years. So if you, just in your job, if there's a potential to get new customers, go out and speak. Tell them what you do. People can't do business with you if they don't know what you do. So get out there and just start speaking and sharing your message. That's one way you can monetize it, is just whatever your business is, you can generate more revenue. Switching over to the professional speaker, I guess you would say, because when I first shifted, I was just like, hey, I just want to speak. I want to put out content. I want to get on more stages. I want to help people. And I was like, hey, other people are getting paid to do this. So I want to figure that out.
Yeah.
And there's different ways. I mean, some people still do the speak for free to the right crowd that those people can become customers.
Yeah.
So I still do that too. I go out there, I can speak. And if the right people are in the audience, then they can hire me or become part of my mastermind or coaching that way. Or the other way is just to get on the stage and get paid to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where you really have to dial it in. What is the benefit for me? If I'm hiring you, what am I going to get from that? So getting really clear on, okay, you got to set your fees. And that the fee is one based off the credibility that you do have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where TED has helped me. It's like, okay, I've got the credibility of being on the TED stage, plus now all the speaking event I've been doing since. But that helps raise the credibility and authority. So then you can raise your speaker fees as long as you can dial it on the back end. Mm-hmm. And thinking through Rory, I give Rory a lot of credit because he's obviously created brand builders with his wife, AJ. So I've learned a ton from him. He's a Hall of Fame speaker. But he talks about the best way to get booked is to have a dialed in speech because people can hear that speech and say, hey, I want to have that at my company.
Right.
Can we hire him to speak based off of that?
Just like a recording artist.
Yeah. So just say, yeah, they have the songs. Yep, I want to bring them in, sing those songs. Mm-hmm. Same thing with your speech. Get a dialed in speech that's bookable, that there's benefits for people hearing it and people want to get you on their stage. Now, another way that I'm monetizing now is people are hiring me to come on and sell into their events, to sell their products, to sell into their coaching. So instead of them having to have an event and then their pitch their mastermind or their coaching, they can bring me in and I tee it up and sell into their program. That's just another way I figured out how to monetize it.
Coach Burt was explaining that to me last year one time. You know, he said one of probably the biggest misconceptions in that industry is that, you know, if you have a fee and you get the full fee, you're going there to deliver what they've asked you to deliver on or hired you to do and give the value. If you discount your fee, then you're going to be selling a little bit from stage to compensate. And if you're doing it for free, you're going there to sell.
That's right. Yep.
From
you
stage.
Have the opportunity to monetize it yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And again, they're all a little bit of a rush, but again, it's three different approaches, you know, and what it is that you're doing, and everything's going to have a call to action of some sort, but like you just really got to dial it in based on what the opportunity is, who the audience is, and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
So with the in the speaker business, like let's talk. I mean, I think there's a lot of folks out there that like, you know, I would love to do that. First of all, if they can get past their own diagnosis of allodoxophobia, about caring too much about what other people think, then they can get into it, right? But like getting started, what would be some advice for people that are interested in doing that and they want to get started?
Yeah. And I think about when I first got started, I was like, people get paid to do this? Like people would actually pay me money to speak because I enjoyed doing it. I was like, I'll go speak for free because I get to help people. But then a mindset shift I had was, and I think, again, it came from Rory. He talked about people aren't paying you X amount of dollars just to go speak for 60 minutes. They're paying you for the years of experience, all the lessons you've learned, and everything that you've had in your life that you're packaging into a message that moves people. So that helped me understand, like, no, they're not just paying me for my time for the 60 minutes. They're paying me, one, those lessons I learned, the experience I've had, but the hours and the time that I'm putting in preparing for this as well. That's really what they're paying for. So shifting your mind to one, another thing too, if you're getting started, is knowing everybody's got a story to tell. Everybody's got a message within them that's like, hey, I need to bring this to the world. And your message matters. Like people need to hear that message. So if you feel like feel this pull to get out there and speak, my question for you is, what impact are you missing out on if you don't start speaking? If you don't overcome the fears, the worries, the doubts, because the world needs your message. And back to Rory again, he talks about you're perfectly positioned to serve the person you once were.
That's right.
So if you're trying to figure out what is my message, who could I help? Think about what you've been through, the challenges you've faced, the obstacles you've overcome, those lessons you learned along the way. You went through that for a reason. You can create that message that would help that past version of you, because there's somebody going through right now what you went through in the past.
That's exactly right. I'm looking up because, obviously always wanting to get better and grow. one of my mentors, Pastor Roger Patton, was telling me about something he's doing that's a little bit it's a movement happening among pastors.
Yeah.
And the book is called Effective First Person Biblical Teaching. And I know you got that copy. Have you started it yet?
Not yet. I'm waiting post TED. Let me get on the other side of my TED Talk.
That's right.
Yeah, you told me about that book. I ordered it, so I'm excited to dive into that.
It's me too. It's sitting on my desk, and I'm like, I've just started it myself. But like, what Roger was telling me about it, it's just a totally different approach on the way the pastors are using it. So like he was leading up to, I think it was his Palm Sunday sermon, and he was telling the story about the when Jesus rode into Jerusalem. I believe it was on that donkey. So he told that story, of leading up to the crucifixion and the resurrection. He told that story from the shepherd's perspective that had to give up that donkey, that herder, which is kind of neat. It's not, you wouldn't normally hear it from that perspective. It was really cool. And he's telling me this, and I'm like, I'm always trying to do something different and stand out.
Yeah.
And like, in a world full of keynote speakers, it seems now, what's one of the things that I can do that's going to make me be an attraction?
Right.
What's something that's going to make them remember me? It's informative, an informative keynote. You give them a whole bunch of information that's easily forgotten versus a transformative keynote. They're going to they're going to take away how you made them feel. They're going to remember how you made them feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, so when Roger was telling me that, I'm like, well, how can we use that? So I'm really excited to figure out what that looks like. I think there's another layer of delivery that might just catch on. It's a really unique approach, I think, right?
Yeah. And that's really what you do have to figure out is what makes me unique. And a lot of people will just stop and it's like, well, somebody else is already speaking on this topic. There's a lot of that out there. I'm no different. So I'm just going to stop here. But everybody's unique. And everybody in the audience, they want to hear different versions of it. They might get a version from Jim Rohn, from Brene Brown, but they're going to get a different version from Nick Hyder.
Yeah.
So they're going to look and see what speaks to me. So there's people in your ecosphere right now that they're looking for you to say the message. They're looking to hear, hey, I want to know, maybe you could say the exact same thing that Tony Robbins does, but they're like, man, I could never hire Tony. I don't have millions of dollars to have him to coach me, but I could have Nick Hyder coach me. So I want to hear from him. I want to hear his perspective.
When we owned Honky Tonks downtown, I couldn't afford to put Garth Brooks on stage, but I could put somebody to sing a Garth Brooks song.
Exactly right. That's right.
That's right. That's exactly what it is, man. For all the naysayers out there, imagine there would be no Tim McGraw if he's like, Johnny Cash sang country. There's enough.
That's right. That's right. People need you. Your uniqueness. Your message matters. Time to get your message to the world.
And that honky tonk is full every night of people singing songs that other people made famous, singing about something. So again, there's plenty of songs in country music about trucks.
Yep.
And girls.
Yeah. And that's a perfect
beer.
example is, there's nothing new under the sun. The principles to success, like people have been talking about these for years, but people have been putting their own spin on it. So think about how can you put your spin and get the message out.
Hey, I want to stay right there for a second. And I want you to talk about how you use your podcast is freaking big, dude. You have a huge audience online. You've had some of the biggest names in the business on your podcast as guests. I've been on your podcast. You're a heck of an interview. You shoot right here in the same studio we're shooting today, right? When we're proud to have you. Talk about how you use your podcast to kind of feed and supplement and build that, the keynote portion of your business.
Yeah. I mean, it all comes out to building the brand, right? I know we dove into that the first time I was here, but building the brand is everything. So when I first got it started, I just showed up every single week and I'm going to interview. And I called it my expert interviews. I didn't even start a podcast at first. I had a Facebook group and every week I had a new guest and we did it live. I'm just going to show up and interview people. And people kept showing up. People kept wanting to hear more. And then I ran a couple summits where I had 50 different speakers. And the cool thing about it is I got credibility and authority by interviewing those other people. And then other opportunities started opening up. People would invite me to speak on their stage. So people would connect me to their friend. Hey, you need to interview this person. And just all that just starts to snowball the more you start showing up. I think people they'll start podcasting or start YouTube or start putting out content and they'll do it just short term. I'm just going to show up and do a few things and then oh, it didn't go viral, I'm just going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, you got to be in it for the long term.
That's right.
And one of the best things about podcasting is the relationships you get to make, the people you get to meet, and you never know who can connect you to who.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're connected through brand builders, but then through podcasting as well.
That's right.
You've connected me to some cool guests, and I've connected you. It's like, no, we're just here to help people because, again, everybody's got a story to tell.
Yeah.
That's what podcasting allows you to do. You get to talk with cool people and give them a platform to share their story.
I think, much in the way that when you get booked over and over and over again, and you've got content to prove that, there's a certain level of credibility that gets associated with you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's so hard for me. It has been so hard for me up to this point to truly express how being a podcast host, how much of an authoritative figure that you become when you're doing that, especially because, again, what makes the Ryman Auditorium great is they say, who stood in this circle right here? Right?
Yeah.
And when and you have a podcast and you can say, who sat over there?
That's right.
And people know that, all of a sudden you start to elevate in the community.
Right. And that's what's cool about it too. Like when this episode airs, we're going to share clips of this. So people that follow me that don't know you yet, they get to see you. They're like, oh, this guy's really cool. Let me go over and start following him. So then you get to get different eyeballs from different places. And the guests that you have on, you share clips, they share it to their audience. And then all of a sudden, a whole slew of other eyeballs are on your stuff. And the more people see you, and I think it comes back to, if you don't put out clips of you speaking, don't put out podcasts, the content, like you kill it with the content, people don't know that you are a speaker. So you got to put yourself out there and show clips of you doing it. And then I think I've got a lot of organic speaking gigs from that. People just see my content and see clips of me speaking and like, oh, you're a speaker. I've got an event coming up. Can you speak at this?
Yeah. I've never once saw just a random person walking down the sidewalk and looked at him and been like, I bet that guy plays guitar.
Right. If he's carrying his guitar down the streets of Nashville, like, oh, he's going to play tonight.
And even more powerful, if I see him on Instagram or LinkedIn or anywhere else and he's playing that guitar, I'm going to know he's a guitar player.
Exactly.
So those clips definitely help out big time. Absolutely big time. So, so the folks here today, like, again, when you speak, you have an avatar, so to speak, that you're pouring into, and sometimes that's selected for you. Maybe it's for a group of realtors or insurance people or whatever it may be. It may just be somebody having a financial event where they're talking about anything and everything that has to do with finance or what it is. Who is like? So obviously, when we started the Hit Lab, for instance, the business of the Hit Lab, we knew who our client was that we serve. We know who it is that has an issue that we solve. Yeah. So when you're on stage, who is the avatar? Is it that you? I would say that if somebody, like, you speak to anybody, but who is it that you feel like you're best uniquely qualified to serve right now?
People that are wanting to achieve more in life and business, because I believe that if you want more, you've got to become more. And I got that from Jim Rohn back in the day. You can have more because you can become more. So I like to help people become more. So then everything in life becomes better. Relationships become better. Finances become better. They make more money. They're enjoying life more because they become more. And a lot of I speak on is subconscious programming. Help them reprogram their subconscious mind for success. And again, as they grow, everything around them starts to grow. So that's kind of the audience. But as far as that's where the two different the avatars in the speaking business. Because then you don't talk to them to get booked. You talk to organizations or meeting planners that are having events. You have to explain to them, this is what I can bring for your audience.
That's right.
So then allow them to get you in front of their people, because they know, hey, if you can help our people become better, our company will grow. The bottom line will grow.
Absolutely. Let me put on my eyeballs here so I can get back to my notes. So I want to spend a little bit talking about the subconscious, because I think I've learned more about myself by learning about what actually the subconscious mind means, and how we use it. But I wrote down something that I'm going to come back to for just a second, which was the TED Talk, which is 18 minutes. All right. Most of the time when you get booked to do a keynote, it's for an hour.
Right.
It's for an hour. So the TED Talk is 18 minutes. You got to really jam it in there. Action packed. Start to finish, no fluff,
Right.
Right into it. And then sometimes stories can take a while.
Yeah.
You know, why 18 minutes? Do you know?
I don't know the reason. Probably just because they don't want people to go on and just make it a 2 to 3 hour talk. So they want to get as powerful. And these days, I mean, attention spans are very short anyways. So the more powerful and impactful you can be in a shorter amount of time, the better.
That's right.
Problem is, it's like, I've got so much information I want to deliver. How do I squeeze it in here?
Yeah.
And back to Rory, he talks about that most people will take a 60-minute keynote and try to jam it into 18 minutes. He said the best speakers take a 10-minute speech and stretch it into 18 minutes.
Perspective.
Yeah. So it's really of like, how can I not rush it and try to just cram everything in, but how can I deliver something impactful and give myself the space where it can actually land with people?
That's powerful.
The Hitstreak is powered by our partners at HitLab Creative Studios. Whether it's launching your brand new podcast, rebranding your current podcast, or taking advantage of any of their other content packages specifically for your social media needs, the HitLab is a one-stop shop for you. Visit hitlabstudio.com for more.
All right, going back to the subconscious mind. All right, I want to hang here for just a minute because this is honestly, dude, every time I hear you talk about it, I learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, for instance, there's roughly 30 to 40,000 decisions that every human being on planet Earth makes a day. Did you know that? 30 to 40,000 decisions. However, you're only aware of a fraction of those. Right. So, for instance, we've got a young man off camera over here. Let's have a little fun.
All right.
All right. So they might not be able to hear you. They might, but I'll repeat what you say. When you put your pants on, which leg goes first?
Right.
Right. Why?
Because I'm right-handed.
When you get out your pants every time, do you think right leg first, or does it just happen?
It just kind of happens.
Just kind of happens. What about shoes? Same thing, right foot first?
Right foot first.
Do you brush your teeth before or after the shower?
Before.
Do you put rinse it in the water before you brush, or do you brush dry?
I rinse it in the water.
Rinse in the water. Do you think, is it intentional every time you rinse it, or is it just something you're doing while you're doing something else? Subconscious, right? There's a lot of decisions that lead to that, right? So let's talk about how the subconscious is made, how it's formed.
Yeah.
And because it's formed in mostly in the first 7 years of a human being's life.
Right. Yeah. And I forgot who it was, whether it was one of the old psychologists back in the day.
It was Bob Proctor, I think.
Bob Proctor talks a lot about subconscious, and I studied a lot of Bob's work. And actually, it was him telling the story about this is where I heard it. But one of those psychologists said, give me the boy who's 7 years old, and I'll show you his life. Because of everything he's been programmed in. By the time he's 7, we live on autopilot the rest of our life. So if we aren't intentional, and think about your normal routine. Maybe your alarm goes off, you roll over the same way, you hit it. Do you grab your phone and scroll through social media? Do you get up, brush your teeth, grab your coffee, make your breakfast, drive off to work the same way that you do every single day? You got this entire routine that you repeat. You come back home, you eat dinner, watch some Netflix, go to bed. Everything's the same every single day. But if you want different results, you've got to do something different. And that's where it can't just be a conscious thought. So consciously at first, you do need to make changes. Let me drive to work a different way. Let me start brushing my teeth with the opposite hand. Like those little things can bring you back into presence and switch you from your conscious mind and start to reprogram the subconscious mind. But the problem is a lot of people use affirmations that I want to reprogram, but they just say words that don't mean anything to them. Like maybe, this speaker told me to say this, this, and this. I am powerful. I am strong. But for me, if I don't feel the emotion, nothing changes.
That's right.
So to really change your subconscious, it's all about the feeling. Feeling is energy in motion. That's where emotion comes from.
Yeah.
Energy in motion.
That's why they play music in retail stores and such, to move that air.
Absolutely. Move that air. You can use sniffing salts. That moves your body. You take a whiff of that, your whole body wants to move. You want to get up and get energy flowing. So if you use affirmations, do it with energy and something that has meaning to you, and you can start to reprogram your subconscious that way.
You know, it's funny too, when people want to change and they're like, I want to change, I want to grow. They only focus on the conscious decisions they make. That's really all they audit. They never audit the first hour and a half of the day, that's their daily routine, to go sit in traffic, to go to a job they hate. They don't change any of those parts of their life. They just try to change what they're aware of.
For sure. A perfect example is people can say that, yes, I want to change my life. I want to start working out. I want to be the best version of me. But they're in a negative environment all day, whether it's at home, whether it's at work. They're put themselves in a negative environment. They're around other people that eat junk food all the time. They don't work out. They don't take care of themselves. So if you don't change your environment, nothing's going to change for you.
Yeah.
You got to start hanging out with the people that take care of their bodies, that value health, that value success. If that's what you're going for, I need more success in my life. Surround yourself with successful people.
Yeah.
Because they make different decisions. They're thinking differently, and you need to start to model what they're doing.
Dude, I'm going to give I'm going to prove that point with a story from the world of professional baseball. So we can agree everybody in pro baseball is good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yet some guys don't perform well, and they'll get traded and get hot immediately, and they start playing to their potential. And I remember one time, folks, if you do not believe that your surroundings affect you, right? This is your proof right here. So an athlete is struggling really bad with the team and the city they're in, and they get traded and sent somewhere else, and they blow it up. And I asked my pitching coach, Todd Etler, shout out to ET, one day, why is that? He said, change the scenery, man. And basically, like, there's a quote that I love, like, if a flower doesn't bloom, you change the environment in which the flower grows. You don't change the flower.
Yeah.
Your surroundings are so important. They pour into you. They feed off you. You feed off them. Proximity is everything. And, and that's another thing. As parents, we audit who our kids hang out with, but we don't do that. We don't serve ourselves with the same manner.
That's right. Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah, and I think we kind of settle for that too. We settle for all things in life. Like, oh, well, this is just all I can achieve. This is here. I'll just be okay with this. I'll be okay with these people who talk down to me or don't lift me up. And the worst thing, though, is the way we talk to ourselves. We would never talk to other people the way we talk to ourselves.
Jim might argue with that. I'm pretty hard on myself. I'm hard on everybody else too.
So hard on everybody else, but probably harder on yourself.
No doubt.
Because you have this standard that you set, which is good. We've got to raise our standards, but we got to give ourselves grace and not talk down to ourselves, but lift ourselves up. Be positive that I can hit this. Because what happens is people that talk down to themselves, they begin to lower the standard. It's like, you know what? I tried to hit this high standard. I wasn't good enough. I'll just lower the standard so then I can hit it. Versus keep the standard high, give yourself grace, and then find out who can I surround myself that could lift me up to live out that standard.
Gotcha. I love that. The proximity, we talk about that so much around here, how important it is. And, when you get around a winning environment, it's contagious. Like that's the thing, is the vibrations around you are contagious.
Yeah. And you expect to win. Like people playing for Nick Saban or Belichick when Brady was there. Like there was a culture of we just win. Like we go out there not thinking there's even a chance we're going to lose, because we're going to show up. We're going to practice our best. We're going to show up as champions. And it's so different. And I'm sure the culture is completely different now. You get rid of Tom Brady and all of a sudden they have a few bad seasons. I'm sure that whole culture is not a culture of winning anymore.
That's right.
It has to be rebuilt of, you know what, we are winners and we can do this. So it all is the environment, is who we're surrounding ourselves with.
The crazy thing is those first 7 years that you talked about before, there's so much growth physically, mentally, there's so many lessons learned.
Yeah.
And then you until you graduate high school, 18 years, every single year of your life, there was a new challenge, a new grade, a new development piece in your life. And then maybe you went to college, maybe you didn't. But then a lot of folks might go out there and they get the job and they're going to stay there. And then, like, let's say they're at the job for 5 years. Well, they're probably mentally, physically, and everything else either in the same spot or even worse. They digressed. They went from changing every year over year. And then just because it wasn't forced upon them, they stopped.
Right.
Growth is intentional, right?
Either way, you're either growing or you're dying. So might as well be intentional to grow in the direction you want to go. And so I was thinking of this story. I share it in my TED Talk, but I'll go ahead and share it here because our stories is what shape our life. It's what we create, is the story early on creates who we become. And I believe if you change your story, you can change your life. So what happened to me, the recollection I have of being afraid to speak happened in second grade. And we're reading a book in class and the teacher's going around calling on everybody. And I'm thinking, please don't call on me. Please don't call on me. And she'd call on somebody else. Oh, thank God. And then I see they get to the end of their paragraph. I start getting nervous again. Oh no, please don't call on me. Please don't call. And she would call other people. And then I look up at the clock. I'm like, okay, we're about to go for lunch. Maybe I don't have to read it all. And then she called me. And man, this wave of anxiety just came over me. And as I started to read, I started fumbling through my words. And I started hearing these other kids laugh at me. And in that moment, I decided like, no, this is not for me. I shouldn't speak up. And subconsciously, it was your voice isn't important.
Yep.
Like you shouldn't be talking. This isn't for you. You just need to stay quiet. And I became very shy, very introverted.
Yep.
And I created that story that you shouldn't speak.
And shy is selfish because you're making it about you.
Right.
It's inflecting
it's all about you. But I believed that story for way too long. And then it got reinforced in college when I took a speech class and I had a panic attack during my speech. And that reinforced it. See, you're not supposed to speak. Yeah, I share that in the TED Talk as well. So, yep, see, you're not supposed to speak. And I believed it. The problem is most people just leave it at that. Nope, this is just the cards I'm dealt. I'm not supposed to speak. That's it. But I had to intentionally choose, I'm going to grow through this. But I'm going to make speaking and the impact I'm going to make more important than me holding all this in and thinking I can't do it. So that's where I had to make the shift. I had to change my story. The story didn't serve me that you can't do this. You can't be a speaker. You're not confident. All those stories that I was saying did not serve me. So I had to shift into a compelling, empowering story that excited me. And I had to become someone new. And that's what we have the power to do. If we change our story, we can change our life. But most people don't want to change the story. They just believe that old story and say, this is who I am. I'm going to live with this.
That's right. Whether they're happy with it or not.
That's right.
They just accept it.
Accept it.
So, folks, those are just a few reasons why you need to book Dr. Justin, right? So think about it. What he was just speaking to, it talks to the highest levels of people in your officers of your organizations and your companies. Your empires. He can speak to the people in the beginning of their journey in your company and all the way up. He can get them early, and that way everything that those people hear in the beginning phases, they match. They're in alignment with everything that that the leadership and officers of your company are saying. Right, so he can literally speak to anybody, whether it's the top of your company or the bottom and everybody in between. Right.
That's right. Yep.
So let's talk about who it is that like. Who is the person that reaches out usually to call you? Who's the organization? The folks that are listening to this today, they're like, I think they're talking about me. Maybe they're not, right? So who is it that hires Dr. Justin to come out and speak?
Yeah, and it's different companies. So I get a lot of real estate companies.
Yeah.
And if you have a company that would be better if your people were better, if they could sell more, if they could produce more, they could benefit from me coming out and speaking because everybody's got a story that's holding them back. So if we can reframe their story and help them become a better person, your organization will grow. So from real estate to financial advisors to chiropractors, all across the board, if you have people, and that's the cool thing about business. Business don't have business problems. They have people, and people have problems. So if you got people that need to be better, hire me.
That's what I'm talking about. And like, this is not just local to Nashville, right?
Yep.
So they've there's a charter plane with your name on it.
That's right. Let's go fuel it up.
And but you can go just about anywhere. You're all across the country.
Yep.
Have you done anything international yet?
Yeah, I've done some Mexico stuff and done some stuff in the islands, Cayman Islands, and different places. So
the life of a speaker.
Yeah, it's been fun.
That's right. That's right. So you get paid to go on vacation.
That's right. That's right.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And if those people that are wanting to book you or thinking, I don't know, we've never booked anybody before, but hey, let's just start at the top. So where can they go? What's some I don't know, some tidbits that you could offer today so that the folks thinking about maybe we should be looking into this, because I promise you, if you have people that are in direct contact with your customers or in the facilitating of you getting your customers, they need to be fed this stuff.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. And it goes back to Rory saying one of the best things to get booked is your speech. So go watch my TED Talk. Go watch my first TED Talk. Watch the content that I put out. If it resonates with what you need, reach out. And a lot of people reach out to me through Instagram. It's just at Dr. Justin Moseley. You can find me there. My website's drjustinmoseley.com. And my email, drjustin@drjustinmoseley.com. And we can have a conversation of what it would look like.
Folks, if you're interested in learning more about having Dr. Justin come out and speak to you, your people, or anybody else, go on his Instagram, right? And just simply DM him the word keynote.
There you go.
DM him the word keynote. Folks, you can keep up with Dr. Justin online at drjustinmoseley.com, as well as on Instagram and other social media platforms at Dr. Justin Moseley, right?
That's right.
The Hitstreak is powered by Team Hyder. Team Hyder has been serving you for 11 years and has racked up over 20 national and local awards for excellence in all areas. When it comes to finding the right health plan, we need to consider your family's needs and your family's budget. That's what we do to serve you. To look further and to book an appointment, visit teamhyder.com.
I want to go back to, I want to give the folks some nuggets today so that they can do some things on their own. So let's talk about some exercises, some tips, or anybody else, or anything else that you could help. Maybe some of the stuff you're helping with your coaches. Let's start with the folks that are like, I know the word mindset is very popular these days. However, what it means is still not quite as common, right? So let's clear up. You are the mindset doctor. Let's clear up exactly what mindset is, right? And maybe some things that a beginner could do to start to be aware of what mindset they have and how to make it better. Maybe there's a mindset that they want to have, that they need to have or want to have.
Right. Yeah. So I think the simplest way to look at it, mindset, is where is your mindset? And one of the simplest ways is it a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? Is it fixed, thinking this is all I've been dealt with, this is all I can achieve, I just have to accept this? Or do I have the ability to grow? Can I increase my thinking? Can I increase my network? Can I increase everything around me, which will allow me to increase and make more, have more, do more? So that's all a mindset. And as you were saying, most people are in the victim mentality, but they accept everything that comes their way. They just accept it. No, you don't have to accept anything. And that goes back to the story. Most people don't get what they want in life because the story they keep telling themselves of why they can't have it. But if you create a new story and say, that might have been where I was in the past, but the past doesn't equal the future. But it can if you let it. And most people do let it. They say, oh, this is my past. This is who I am. I'll continue to go in that direction. But you can say that, and that can be an affirmation for you. The past doesn't equal the future. And you can, from today, decide to have a new future. But it takes creating a new vision for your life, creating a new story, creating your own movie of your life.
That's right.
Most people aren't even the star of their own life, their own movie. They're secondhand actors in their own movie of their life. So it's like, no, it's time for you to be the star. What is the vision of your life? If it could be better, start there. Don't believe, I can do X, Y, and Z. Just say, what if I could? And I think that's easier for people to start to say, well, if I could, it would look like this. If I could, maybe I could do this. And it just takes a little seed of belief, and that seed will start to grow. And you start to visualize it and affirm it every single day. You put yourself around people in environments that people speak life into you, it lifts you up even more. And you start to believe, you know what? I can be different.
That's right.
I can make it better.
There's a story about a very popular Hollywood actor that you just kind of described a little bit. And he wrote a screenplay called Rocky.
Right.
And people wanted to buy that screenplay for him, but didn't want him to star in it.
That's right.
So, and by the way, if you've heard the story, he's saying no. He literally had to sell his dog.
Yeah, because he couldn't afford to eat. He couldn't afford to feed the dog.
And somebody's saying, "I'll give you whatever it was, $250,000 for that script." When he didn't have a penny, 2 pennies to rub together, and he said no because he knew that he wanted to be Rocky, the title character. So you were talking about some people aren't even the star of their own story.
Right.
Sylvester Stallone is a great example of, in his mind, his mindset was he was a starring actor.
That's right.
And he wrote a screenplay to star in. And he did not lower his standards or settle for anything less. Even when probably him, his friends, his family, even his debt collectors were saying, take that $250,000.
That's right. That's right. And I learned a lot from actors too. I love it because they can become somebody completely different. Every role that they have is somebody, they've been playing somebody different, but they become that character. The best actors, you believe that's them. You believe every single word that they're saying. So you've been playing a role your whole life. What if you went out there and you played a role of a more successful version of you, a confident speaker, whatever it is that you want to be, you can play that role. And if you start to show up every single day, moving in that direction, you're going to continue to get better. And all of a sudden you'll look back 6 months or 6 years down the road and see, look how far I've grown versus just staying stagnant and accepting where you are now.
That's exactly right. When my dad was in the music business, there was a country singer in the 90s, had a whole bunch of hits by the name of Dwight Yoakam.
Yeah.
Dwight Yoakam, if you looked up attractive man in the dictionary, you're not going to find his picture. You know what I mean? It's not a knock on him.
No, it is what it is.
And he went on to star in some big time movies as well. He had no acting pedigree that I know of. He's not even considered like a great singer. He don't have like this range or this voice, but he does have a very unique sound, a very unique style, but he also has a very unique confidence. And there are women out there that think that's a good looking man. And if he didn't have his guitar and them tight pants and a cowboy hat on, they wouldn't say that.
That's right.
But it's the way that when he puts that stuff on, the person that he becomes when he's on that stage and he's doing that stuff. And like Dad was always really ahead of his time with some of those things, but he would, he used those things as like, guys like Dwight Yoakam, they make it, Nick. And I was like, well, why? He goes, because that guy just believes it that much.
Exactly. And I think that's where it comes with a lot. If somebody else can do it, you can do it. You might not know how to do it, but you can learn skills. You can put yourself around people. There's things that you can do to put yourself in a position to win. So if anything out there that's been done, you can do it as well.
That's right. That's right. So aside from, your speaking fee going up from a second TED Talk.
Yes.
Aside from that, what else is new for you in 2024? This is a big milestone for you, and it's going to open up a lot of doors. What's some plans you got for your coaching business, your podcast, and again, some speaking goals for you? Because again, even as a keynote speaker, you got to have goals, right?
That's right. Yeah. So definitely speaking more, because I love just impacting people and that opportunity, the rush that you get, being on stage it's fun. And the impact afterwards. I love coming off stage and people coming up and saying, that's exactly what I needed to hear. So doing more of that, but then really shifting into a season of sharing more of my faith. Because I've been praying about, like, God, you're giving me this platform, but how can I use it to glorify you? So there's been a lot of cool opportunities, even using my social media to help just reach more people for Jesus. And I've got a friend and mentor of mine. He's an evangelist. And pre-COVID, he was going overseas, Pakistan, Uganda, all those places. Stuff you see on TV. Like there's a sea of people, over 100,000 people in a field, and he's preaching and people are giving their life to Christ. And blind are seeing, the deaf are hearing. He got to see all that. Well, then COVID hit.
That's incredible.
And he started doing it via Zoom. He's got a team overseas, and then he can just be on Zoom at 3 a.m. here. He's overseas preaching the gospel.
That's incredible.
And I'm kind of coming alongside him where I'm going to start doing more of that myself too. Just reaching more people and just spreading the gospel, man.
I couldn't, let's just hang there for a minute because like, again, that's my big thing is people, brand builders ask me, what's the one word problem you solve? And I said, faith.
Wow.
Faith.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it was something that I'm solving for myself. And again, I'm most uniquely qualified to serve the person I used to be, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So faith is my one word problem. What is your one word problem? Mindset.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Yeah. Because that's where I looked at for me. What did I go through? Well, I struggled, lacked self-confidence. Obviously, I was terrified of public speaking. There was a lot of things like that along the way. There was a mindset issue that I had to overcome. So yeah, that's what it was for me.
And, one of the biggest contributors to your mindset is your faith.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So, and I use my faith in Christ to fuel the faith for myself. That was, people, my mentors were like, you need to work on yourself a little, Nick. You need to continue to develop and so on and so forth. Well, I found how to do that through fueling my faith. That I found my fitness, the destination through my fitness journey, my marriage journey, my father journey, my business journey, everything else once I found my faith in Christ first.
Yeah. That's what I love about mindset, because the Bible is one of the best mindset personal development books there is.
Dude, that's it. Absolutely. I can't believe you're the first person I've ever heard say that.
Yeah. I mean, it's right there. It's like, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, because it's a mindset issue. Because from our heart flow the issues of life, but what flows from our heart is what's in our mind. If we let toxic stuff in here, it gets into our heart, it comes out into the actions that we have.
That's right.
So that's why feeding your mind in scripture, it will definitely shift your mindset. It will help transform you. And as you become a transformed person, you have a transformed life.
Dude, I couldn't think of a better way to kind of like end something like this, because that's so strong. But again, folks, we're with Dr. Justin Moseley, the Mindset Doctor himself, top-rated podcast host of the Mindset Doctor podcast, transformation coach, two-time TED speaker.
Yes, sir.
Two-time TED speaker. Justin, is there any final kind of thoughts, words, that you want to kind of put out there? And I'd love to keep it in line with that faith piece, because I had somebody told my wife the other day that, they just love this podcast because of our ability to not just but include our faith in what we're doing, but use that in a way to make it a part of our everyday life and journey in business and a part of our growth, part of our lifestyle. So I wanted to kind of stay there for just a second, because that's something that we do have in common. I think that's one of the things that draws us together.
Yeah.
Again, final thoughts from today, what's coming up 23 days from now, and how you're going to use your faith to kind of fuel all that.
Yeah. And I think most people, even people of faith, they keep that separate. Like, I got my business over here, my family, and then I have faith here, but I don't really talk about that. I just kind of keep that to myself. And I think people should be bringing it into business, definitely with your family. Everything that you do, if faith is so important to you, why isn't it part of everything you do?
That's right.
And I think of when I got early in business, when I first started, a mentor of mine said, back in the day, his business was cranking, and a guy told him, he was like, you'd be really successful if you'd stop talking about all this faith stuff. He said, if you keep talking about faith, you're going to fail. And he told the guy, well, I guess I'm going to fail because he's like, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. This guy, he went on to be a multi-millionaire. Not that it's about the money, but it wasn't the faith that was going to hold him back. The faith actually did more for him than holding it to himself.
That's right.
So for me, it's like, no, everything that I have, everything I've accomplished, the TED, all the stuff isn't because of me. It's in spite of me. And it's me just trying to be faithful to the call that God has on my life and continuing to show up.
That's right.
So I think if faith is part of who you are and what you do, share it with others, because you never know who needs to hear it. And then speaking of that, back and wrapping this up with the TED Talk, is I would love for you to go watch the TED Talk, but share it with other people.
That's right.
The more you share it, the more it's going to spread. And I think it's an issue that lots of people have. One, the fear of speaking, but just the fear of anything. The story that they have that's holding them back, they need to shift that so they can make a change. And that's my goal for this talk, is to reach more people.
I believe that leadership's for everybody. And, the way I justify that statement is like, let's say, I don't know, you go to Baskin Robbins and you try a new ice cream flavor and you love it. You tell somebody about it and they go try it and you led them to eat that ice cream cone.
That's right.
To eat that flavor.
Yep.
And so, again, they're going to come listen to their talk for them. Well, let's encourage them to focus out. You're most uniquely qualified to help and serve the person that you used to be, right?
That's right.
So again, the things that you struggle with, that this TED Talk helped you deal with or overcome. Yeah. Who else in your life is struggling with the same things you are that need to hear that TED Talk, and simply just sharing that with them as a form of leadership, but that's how they can share that goodness, right? So they can get fed, but more importantly, feed others so they can put on the oxygen mask themselves on that plane, and then put it on others and help them get off that plane, right?
Yeah. And that's what's cool about it, is I do believe this is going to be a object of transformation for people. So if you just share this with somebody else, you get to be a part of their transformation. And it's as simple as just sharing it.
And folks, once again, drjustinmoseley.com is the URL, and that's where you can find all the stuff. You can find links to the first keynote talk, TEDx talk there. You can find the second one that we're talking about today, as well as a whole bunch of other good stuff that you need to know about. Keep up with Dr. Justin. He's got great content on social media at Dr. Justin Moseley. And again, having lots of updates and stuff like that as far as when the episode comes out. You guys are filming that talk in 23 days, but it's 1 to 2 months. They've got all the speakers in the lineup, and they release them all one by one, right?
Yeah, they submit it to TED, so they got to get the official approval, and when they have their own timeline to release it. So, yeah.
Man, just so you know, I don't know how you get on the docket to be considered for one of those things. That is a bucket list thing of mine. Maybe you got to be referred. I don't know. I know a guy though.
You know a guy. That's right.
But I would love to do it. I tell you what, I'm gonna have to work hard to get mine in under 18 minutes because I can.
That's the hard part.
I can get stuck in 18 minutes all day long.
Yep. Yeah, that's hard.
All day long. Well, dude, congratulations, man. It's an honor and privilege to call you a friend. I call you a mentor. I've learned so much from every time I speak to you. I learn something new that I can turn right around and apply to life. Again, I can't think of a better person to be doing a second one than, that's how you know Ted's the real deal. They know how to choose the right people.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you having me back on the show, and I appreciate our friendship. And that's what I love about it too, is we want to help grow ourselves and help each other grow along the way too. So I love you, brother. Thank you for having me on.
The Hitstreak is powered by Rack Financial. When it comes to your credit card merchant processing, Rack Financial is efficient, reliable, and trusted. At the end of the day, when it comes to processing your credit card payments, they make it simple, the way it's supposed to be. Check out Rack Financial.
Folks, once again, big shout out to Dr. Justin Moseley, the mindset doctor himself, and congratulations to his second TED Talk. It's unbelievable. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of The Hitstreak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.